So something that is really hard for a lot of business owners is letting go of people that you genuinely like, but who just aren't the right fit for your business. You know the ones, right? You know those ones. They are kind and sweet and super fun to be around. You could probably hang out with them for an entire weekend. But then at the end of the day, they're actually holding your business back when you think about it and when you really go big picture. So, no matter how long you've been in business, in my experience, this is a universally emotional struggle because you're not just a business owner, you're also a human. And firing or letting someone go can feel very, very, very personal. How do I know this? Well, I have been there multiple times. And while I like to consider myself a level headed and objective leader, the decision to let go of well intentioned contractors or employees always feels really difficult. It is hard to separate that personal connection from what's best for the business. But ultimately, you have to prioritize the health and success of your company. And that is what we are talking about in today's episode. Hey there, I'm Paige Griffith, your host, an attorney for small business owners, and the founder of The Legal Page. I help online businesses and creatives get legally legit in no time. In this podcast, I break down and simplify legal talk while providing practical business guidance every step of the way. With over a decade of experience in both entrepreneurship and the law, think of me as your go-to legal resource, here to tackle all those what-if scenarios so that you can focus on what you do best, growing your business. As a gentle reminder and disclaimer, I am an attorney, but I am not your attorney, so be sure to seek legal counsel for personalized advice. Welcome to the Legally Legit Podcast. So I want to start out this episode with a personal experience that I had. And I have called them quote unquote lovely people. I don't know why, but at a recent mastermind event that I was at, someone was talking about this person on their team and how they really loved them and they were great humans and lovely people, quote unquote. But there's always the but. And you think about the but as in, okay, but maybe they're not the best suited for this role, or maybe they don't have the right skill set. And I responded at this mastermind event with my thoughts on this experience that they were having based on my previous experiences. And one of those was someone who was running one segment of the Legal Page. And I'm not here to like name names or point anybody out because in all honesty, they were decent or they were good at their job for a period of time. And then the job evolved or things were changing and pivoting in my online business. And they were lovely people. Like this person was so awesome, had all the hype in the world, loved the Legal Page, like would bend over backwards for our company. And really a jack of all trades, could do a lot for the business, but at the end of the day wasn't exactly what I needed or the team needed in that role. And I kid you not, it took me, I think 3.5 years to let this person go. So raising my hand here, I am totally guilty of this. But one thing I have learned from being a business owner for almost 9 years now, and from being a leader in various other positions that I've had in the legal world, and I also just growing up as doing leadership and executive things in college and in law school as well. But really, truly having this experience for the past almost decade of running a business is you do not have it figured out all at the beginning. You truly don't. You think you do, and you think that you're a really good leader and manager, but this is a learned skill and a skill that keeps evolving over time. And I was not in the position, 7, 8 years ago when I was starting to build a team to really know what it meant to hold on to lovely people. And now looking backwards, there's not, I don't know if it's a regret, so to speak, but it's more of a massive, massive learning lesson and potentially a tiny bit of a regret, as in I wish I would have gotten someone better suited for that position earlier than I would have, and I wouldn't have held on to them as long, because now I see the fruits and the ROI of having someone really specific in that position that I actually wanted. And you can teach people to have better communication skills with your team, to figure out kind of the morals and values and ethics of your team. Yes, all of that needs to stand true when you're hiring someone. A lot of it is teachable, though, at the end of the day. But the lovely people that don't have the right skill sets aren't ever going to necessarily turn in to the people that have the right skill sets, because they're just not as experienced as you need them to be. And the strategy behind a lot of positions in the online world, that all comes from past experiences. Those are the right people to hire. All right, so that was a roundabout way of saying I have had one person in particular that I can think of that oh my gosh, if they could still be on my team and I could see them on team meetings, I would just smile and get joy every day. But looking back, that position needed to be filled with someone else. And now that specific segment of my business is honestly doing a lot better. Another example of this is I hired someone in a critical role of the company that was very, very good at their job. Like really talented, very strategic, knew what they were doing. But the one thing I'll say is they were honestly a nightmare to manage. And it was really hard on me. I felt like myself and then a couple of people in my executive leadership team were spending way too many hours just managing them. And after 6 to 12 months, they should really be learning the ropes and figuring out how to do XYZ and accomplish all of their tasks and check those boxes off without a lot of oversight and management from you. If you're at 6 to 12 months of still kind of hand-holding them through what they need to do and constantly like checking it on you and asking for approval and not taking the initiative, even though you say over and over again, you're building them up, you're empowering them to make these decisions themselves, and you've kind of exhausted all resources there, they might be lovely people and they actually might have the right skill sets and be very good at their job. But there's other things that they can't do that's holding your business back, as in make executive decisions without you. And if people are not good communicators and you just can't figure out their communication style, or this particular person just had way too many clients and they were so good at what they were doing. But I was like, after this amount of like back and forth and grief and like internal struggle I was having with this person, they were lovely people, good at their job, but their communication wasn't there. I feel like they were overstretched. They had too many clients and we weren't necessarily the priority that I think we should have been for how much we were paying them. I had to make I need to make the CEO call here. I'm going to, play my CEO card. And I just decided we need to let them go. And I now want to test out what it would be like for our team to pick up these pieces, the current team as is versus filling that position. And I'll go deeper into this in another episode, but that was life altering and just eye-opening as a whole, because now I can say almost a year later, now that I've let this person go, there's so much less just baggage and like strain on my shoulders now that I'm not managing them, because it was way too much to manage them and communicate with them and like pull teeth to get them to actually finish the job. And even though they were really good at it. So those are like two different examples of quote unquote lovely people that I've had in my business. Now, I have also had unlovely people, and that is you hired slow, but you fire really fast. You fire really fast with unlovely people because you can't train an unlovely person to be lovely. Like they're not going to be good for your team if they are not a fit. And I have had that on multiple occasions with employees and contractors. Specifically with employees, I fire super fast. If they come across as, you can do everything possible. You can interview multiple times. You can have all these rounds of interviews. You can have, them doing face-to-camera audio for you. You can have them fill out the best resumes and best cover letters possible. You can give them test projects even when we are hiring, especially with employees. And we do this with contractors now too. We have test projects that are paid during the hiring process, and they can they can win on all fronts and they can check all those boxes. and they can make it through even that. And then when they get on the team and they're a contractor or an employee, but I've more or less experienced this with employees, I would say a majority of the time, is then they start getting comfortable. And you will know pretty quickly in the first 2 to 4 weeks if they're unlovely people and they're not the right fit. Even if they seem like the right fit and you hired really slow. But I was also in Mexico last year at another business retreat with bigger businesses and CEOs in the online space. And I brought this to their attention. I said, I just hired this employee. Like, I am just feeling all of these emotions and they're just not the right fit and blah, 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 blah. And like, this is how it's going on team calls. And then my team is responding back to me being like, that did not go well. And I'm not having good feelings about them. And everyone straight up told me, fire fast. You need to fire fast. And so even 6 years into hiring people and trying to build the best team possible, I was still learning things. And, even since last spring, and then I've had some other hires and fires in that period of time. That's just the name of the game with business. It is hard. It's hard because you can like someone so much as a person, and it just feels mean to let them go. And you worry about hurting their feelings or disrupting their livelihood. That's a big one for me because I grew up in a very blue collar family that was paycheck to paycheck. And I knew that, and my parents let me know that. So it's massively ingrained in me, something that I am learning now as a parent that I don't want to do for my kids. And I'm not dogging on my parents. Like, they were doing the best they could, but it was just something that they shared with us, and finances. And so I feel like finances are really, really personal to me. You will always get contractors or employees saying, I need this job and this is really important to me. And they'll bring in things about their finances, and it really makes it personal and makes me feel, one, more connected to them, but two, even worse, for feeling that I needed to let them go. And then I end up hanging on to those lovely people longer than I should. Or I think to myself, maybe if I just train them more, or I give them one more chance, and then I give them another chance, and then I give them another chance. And at the end of the day, they didn't even need all those chances because they weren't the right fit to begin with. Now, I'm going to go back to what I was saying. I have a whole other thing to discuss on disrupting their livelihood. I'm going to make a bold statement here as a business owner and in all of the experiences that I've had. If someone brings in finances over and over and over again, and they're like making their finances your problem, they're not the right fit. I'm just going to claim that really boldly, because they need to figure out their own finances, and they need to work for your company and say yes to X amount and agree to do X job for X amount. And if they're constantly coming back to you for a raise or for certain things, like they're in it for them and they're not really in it for your business. And maybe that's how you want to run your business, but it's not how I want to run mine. I want people that are all in with my company and the morals and ethics and values that we have. And yes, finances are a part of that. And I don't mind every so often if it becomes a thing, but if it's a constant thing and you're constantly fixing their financial decisions or mistakes or covering for them, it's going to have a real impact on your business and your mental energy and mental health. And I don't want that for you as a CEO and the owner of the company that's hiring them. So ultimately what I'm saying here is, if they're draining your time and energy or your team's time and energy, they're not the right fit. Also, if they lower the standard for your team, whoa, what am I saying here? I'm saying that you don't even know it's happening, but other team members, I can tell you, notice when someone isn't pulling their weight. They notice it. And I have gotten now accustomed to asking my leadership team about certain people every 2 to 4 weeks. I just say, hey, check in. How is their work ethic? Are they providing feedback? Are they communicating with you well? Is there any rub? Are you not feeling good about them in, various capacities? Is there something I can do as a business owner to step in? Or do you feel like you have this? Because I think you're really right. You want to build them up, empower them. Like, if they're managing them, you don't want to step on their toes. But sometimes they won't ask you to step in. You have to be the one to present that opportunity to someone higher in management in your company. Like, I actually do think that this would be a really good opportunity for you to hop on a call, or for you to Voxer them or Slack them and, praise sandwich, this is what they have been doing really well. This is what your manager has told me. Here's some things I think we need to work on. And then you praise them at the end. Like, this is all going, I can't wait to see what we do in the next 2 months. Like, you're still crushing it, praise sandwich them. I don't like it when employees and contractors lower the standard for your team. I want excellence. I want people who are all in and do really, really good things for my company, and also like feel that with the whole of the team. Because if you have someone that is rocking at 150% all of the time, maybe not 150%, I understand that you're human, but my team knows that they need to work this hard. They need to hustle this hard during certain seasons of the year. And then we're going to have some down seasons and a lot more flexibility. And when my team members see people like flexing time or just not operating at the level that everyone else is operating during that season of the business, other team members get resentful. And they don't like it when people aren't pulling their weight. So be aware of that and check in with your team, but also just be aware of that and see that as a business owner because it means a lot. I'm always just really getting feelers for my team as a whole because I can see things that are happening under the surface from body language and frustration and resentment, and not just for you, but for others who are picking up their slack because they might be lovely people. But if someone else is picking up their slack, those team members are not going to feel good about it. They're going to be like, this wasn't in my job description. And like, I'm trying to manage them, but now I'm like doing the things that they should be doing. And picking up their slack is okay on occasion, but it's not okay all the time. And then I'm just going to say here, like I feel like these lovely people are taking a seat that could be filled by someone who's truly great, skill set wise and strategy wise. And the skill sets and strategies are going to be the team that takes you there. I learned this from the Stacking Your Team podcast. Go listen to it if you are building your team. It's one that I've listened to time and time again with Shelley Warren. She's so great. She has a background in HR. And she always says, like, the team that gets you here is not going to be the team that gets you there, or may not. And in my case, it's not. Like, it's just not. The team that gets you here is going to get you here for a reason. And then you need to stack your team so that you can get there. And then when you get there, you might actually have to find more roles to fill or different team members to fill to get there, like the next there. So just be aware of that. It's okay to let lovely people go, whether they're good at their job or whether they're not good at their job and they're just lovely people. And there's all of these reasons why they're just not a good fit for your team. I would suggest that you let them go nicely as quickly as possible. And in that respect, letting them go is actually just an act of kindness. You are giving them the chance to find a role that is better suited for them. And you're giving yourself and your business and your team the chance to thrive with all the right people. So again, it's not just about being nice, it's about being fair to your business. Please make sure that when you're hiring people, they're as much of a go-getter as the rest of your team. They need to be showing initiative. Are they growing and adapting with the business? Especially for online business owners. Are they willing to pivot? And are they like, buckle up, let's go. I want to be on this ride with you. And those are the people you want on your team in the online world, because pivoting and changing is constantly happening. I mean, we have it every week. And I will now say I'm recording this podcast episode with deep appreciation for the team that I have right now. I'm just going to take a moment. If you are all listening, you know who you are. I adore them so much. And I was thinking this before I started recording. Wow, look at how far we have come here at TOP, from starting with just me to me hiring some VAs. And some of those VAs are still some of the loveliest people that I've ever met. Some of them are still affiliates, and I always let them go with the best of intentions. And some of them and me are still friends. We still DM. A couple of them I can't even wait to hug next week because I haven't met them in person. They're going to be at a conference I was at, and they were lovely people, and they were there for a season or a reason, but they weren't there for the lifetime of the business. And they were lovely people, and I was ready for the next person to be in that role. So it doesn't always have to be bad. Sometimes it is bad when you let people go and you just know, like, I'm never going to talk to them again. They're going to think really badly of me, and that's okay. That's a one-side street there. They have the right to think that way. But at the end of the day, like, they're just they're not the go-getters that I want on the team. And I've heard this from other people on podcasts. You need to unapologetically have high standards and stick to them. And the sticking to them is the hardest thing for a lot of online business owners, because I do feel like it is a tiny bit passive. It's not as personal. Like, you are doing things remote, and you can apologize for things. Like, they aren't meeting deadlines and expectations consistently, and you're giving them try and try again. You're giving them another chance. Just be unapologetic about it. Like, and you have to stick to them. You hear that when I say on the Legally Legit podcast, like, you have a contract, but your contract is only as good as your willingness to enforce it. You need to have high standards as a business owner when you're building your team, and unapologetically stick to those high standards and enforce those high standards. So if the lovely person that you really, really wanted to be a part of your team just isn't meeting expectations after having training and clear communication from you and multiple months or weeks at least on the team, it's time to part ways. If you learn anything from me on this episode, it's just, you got to let go of guilt. You are running a business, not a charity. Let me say that again. You are running a business, not a charity. And I mean that with the best of intentions here. Like, you can do things for people along the way, but it doesn't need to be your team members. You can do things for other business owners. You can do things for colleagues. You can go to a coffee shop and have a meetup for free and, dispel as much business information as you can and lift other people up. But you have to let go of guilt when it comes to building a team. And if you don't learn that early on, you're going to build the wrong team, and you're going to spend too much time building the wrong team. And then your business is not going to succeed the way you want it to. So you have to have the conversation. And how would I suggest that you have it? Be clear, be kind. Sometimes praise sandwiches, but when you're letting people go, it's, I appreciate you, but this role isn't the best fit. Boom. And here's why. Don't over-explain it. Keep it professional. And then have all necessary paperwork ready. Have that email ready, final payment, termination details, offboarding checklist. The one thing I've learned too when we offboard people is we have a couple upper management that knows the process of, they need, before Paige hops on that call or when Paige is going to hop on that call, at that same time, I am literally exiting them out of everything. Slack, Monday, like, I leave that call and they're already kind of offboarded from my upper management doing it at the same time that I'm telling them, because you can get people that are really resentful or worse, vengeful, and they will do things to your documents or things in your business that you don't want them to. I have had this happen before where I've had people like steal documents from me, even if it's in a work made for hire clause. And we're going to talk about protecting your business, firing and hiring the right way and the legal way here in a second. But that is one thing that I have experienced that I learned a great deal from was you have to make copies of everything that this person has if they are not like a part of your G Suite or some Google Suite or something like that, or they don't have a company email. And then you have to exit them out of everything because people can get really weird. What was I listening to recently? It was probably a podcast, or maybe it was like a short reel or TikTok or clip. It's like, you only know the person you're marrying at that time, and you don't know the person that you're going to divorce. And I was like, oh my gosh, that so rings true for employment and building a business. Like, you know people while they're great and while they onboarded with you and you hired them and now they're working really well for your business. You do not know the person that's going to come out when you let them go. Just like you don't know the person you're divorcing. Oh, it had to do with a prenup is what I'm saying, which is a great segment into what I am about to talk about with the legalities surrounding everything I want to make sure that you have in order. But yeah, you have to protect yourself early on with really good contracts. And this was, that's what this clip was. It was about a prenup. Like, you know the person you're marrying, but you don't know the person that you're divorcing. And those people can get really ugly. And the same goes for employment, whether that's a contractor or an employee. I have had worse experiences with contractors doing really shady things. So just remember that. Okay. Great transition here into why contracts matter and what I would suggest for you moving forward when you're hiring people. I want you to hire them the right way. And then I also want you to fire the right way. So always, 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 step one is have a clear contractor agreement in place. If you're hiring an independent contractor, make sure you have an independent contractor agreement. If they are a, I don't know, social media manager, virtual assistant, podcast manager, those types of people probably have their own contracts. It's okay if they send them over to you, but at the end of the day, your company's hiring them. And I have always taken the approach of I'm totally willing to look at your agreement and maybe incorporate some things, but I prefer to send out my own independent contractor agreements so that it aligns with our business policies and practices. And I'll make sure to link our independent contractor agreement in this episode's show notes. But the one thing is just make sure that you're sending out something that has really clear language on work made for hire situations in a contractor relationship so that all of the work that they do is automatically assigned to you. Maybe their own systems and workflows is their own intellectual property, but basically everything else is yours. And then kind of term and termination procedures also need to be clearly outlined. Remember, in an independent contractor relationship, it is independent by nature. So you should be free to let them go at any time and vice versa. Usually there's like payments for work performed that are due by you and then deliverables of a work product due by them to you. Then also in an employment contracts, I would say, are even more important than contractor agreements. They're both equally important, but employment gets sticky because of UI, so unemployment insurance and how that applies with your state. Also like termination procedures. Does your state have at-will employment or is there a probationary period? And then thereafter, you can only terminate for just cause. What is just cause? Like all of that needs to be in your employment agreement, as well as hourly rates and compensation as a whole. What does that look like? Do you want to put in your contract anything regarding performance reviews? And performance reviews in an employment contract is a really good place for them to have expectations set of, okay, I'm going to have a performance review every 6 months. That's probably the right time to discuss pay again. And then you have the right to say yes or no in that situation. If you leave it open-ended and it's not in an employment agreement, that's like the baseline for their expectations from you. And if you don't put it in there, they're just going to kind of like ruminate and maybe like drag you through some things on, hey, this is what I expected and they didn't have expectations. So they're going to ask you about it. AKA they're going to ask you for raises time and time again. So be really clear in your employment agreements as well. Of course, employment is a little bit easier for assignment of all work performed. That is really like case precedent, legally set that employment, you don't own anything, the company owns everything you do, and that's different from a contractor relationship. So just have all of those intellectual property things set in your agreements. When you hire an employee, I would also suggest that you have an employee handbook. They are like game changers. Not only do they reiterate those expectations in the employment agreement, but they set all expectations from day one. They outline all of the job responsibilities, performance reviews, termination procedures, how to get paid. They keep things professional and legally sound, and they also just keep things really straight and narrow and similar across the board for all of your employees. So they all know, hey, this is the standard that was set by the company. I need to follow this employee handbook. This is also the business policy regarding X, or who I contact for HR, or who do I go to for a payroll issue, or when can I communicate with the CEO? All of that can be in an employee handbook, of course. Then PIPs, so performance improvement plans with employees, always derive from an employee handbook for the most part, oftentimes from the employment agreement as a whole. But the employment agreement is actually more duplicated in the employee handbook as really like general business policies surrounding your company and employees. And so, yeah, if they're on a PIP, if you put them on a performance improvement plan at any given time, usually you're relating back to things that are being breached or not, expectations aren't being met in regards to the employee handbook. So just be aware of that. Employee handbooks are really, really good for PIP reasons and also just breach of employment agreement reasons and termination procedures as well. Performance improvement plans, I've only had to put a couple people on them, but I kind of know the minute I put someone on a PIP, like they're probably not going to be the right fit. I'm just doing what I need to do legally to ensure all of my documentation is set in case this person does come after me for wrongful termination or anything along those lines. And they kind of know too, if they're on a PIP, like people don't like being on a PIP, and they're going to like already have some disdain and like not good feelings about your company when they get placed on a performance improvement plan. I think some people may like have some gusto and like become a better employee because of it. But in my experience, not the case. I also had a lot of federal cases that I worked on with the judge that I clerked for regarding PIPs and how legally they all related to one another and case law. So PIPs are really important for documentation purposes. And I can tell you that from experience working on an appellate court case in the Ninth Circuit regarding this. So employee handbooks, really important. And then the contracts. And then again, don't just hire someone because you like someone. Hire for skills, mindset, and culture fit. Trial periods here can help you assess whether someone is truly the right fit before committing long term. And so I have had situations too where I'm just like, okay, they seem like the right fit, skill set, mindset, culture wise, they're good. I have this gut feeling that I need to do kind of a temporary employment agreement for 6 months and just kind of assess whether this is a good fit. And then we do a year-long or, year-long plus employment agreement. I will also do the same for contractors. For contractors, I usually say like, I reduce the amount of time. Let's try this out for a month. I've done that before. Or let's try this out for 3 months. If it's a contractor position that needs a little bit more time for me to really see if their skill sets are going to contribute and benefit the company and if they're going to be the right fit before I commit long term. And I can do that with like a monetary raise as well. Like, hey, this is our budget right now. I would like to have you on board for this amount per month as a contractor. And then I would love to discuss this after the 3-month term and get a little bit closer to what you were expecting. And that's a really good way to see if people are all in for you. Like, I want to be paid X by this company. I like this company. And it helps you see if they are the right fit with their output that they're giving to your company. To wrap this all up here, when in doubt, trust your gut. Because if you feel like you're constantly making excuses for someone, that's a sign. If you are feeling like for whatever reason, they're not the right fit for XYZ purposes, that's a sign. If for whatever reason your other team members have come to you multiple times, if one time, I get it. Maybe there's just a personality clash. 2 times, okay, this is starting to get strange. Always put the people who have been on your team longer and longevity and that trust and honesty and loyalty with your company with my experience means more than people who just have like the best skill sets. We've experienced that here at TLP where, I have employees that they've been a good fit forever. They've got the right skills. They've got the right mindset. They're a good culture fit. I gel with them, communication style, everything's going well. And they've brought in a lot of ROI for my company. So if that's the case, and they come to me first, okay, I'm like, maybe they're not having the right, communication style with this new team member, and I'll help them through that. But if they're coming multiple times to me, that's a sign that this other person isn't the right fit. And then I'm going to double down here. If multiple different people come to you about one employee or contractor, immediately I'm like, lovely person or unlovely person. In those cases, I fire right away. But if it's a lovely person and multiple people are coming to me, they need to go. They need to go quicker than I would like, but they need to, because I got to make sure that the team as a whole is still really, really good and solid. And the aura of the team doesn't get shaken up by a lovely person who isn't the right fit. Best thing I can say to you is high performing businesses are built on high performing teams. Expect excellence. Make people work at 90 to 100%. I have a lot of flexibility with my team members, throughout the week, but I still expect excellence and I still want them to do their job really well. And I will incentivize them in any way I can as a small business owner. But I also expect the same from new hires, and I'm not just going to let a new hire not do what they need to do for, some people say, well, it takes like 6 to 12 months for them to like wrap their head around a job and like actually start producing for you. And while I agree with that in some respects, I think in my experience, you know pretty soon, like within 2 to 4 weeks, if they're the right fit. Within 4 to 8 weeks or 4 to 12 weeks, like you'll know within 3 months if they are actually going to contribute to the benefit of your company, they are going to bring in some ROI, or they are best suited for this position. And then if they are, then you can work with them and you know that they're the right fit. If you're having any weird feelings, you got to trust your gut. You got to know that they're not as high performing as you need them to be, but the rest of your team is, and you can find another high performing person in there. I understand that hiring and finding people is difficult. I just had this conversation with someone at breakfast at a conference last week, and they were like, how do you find the right virtual assistants? And when do you know? And I need someone, but I'm worried about hiring. And what if they're not the right fit? And I've spent so much time and energy. And I looked at them and I said, you're probably not, you're going to have a few flops. Like that's just the part of running a business and learning from your mistakes. I would expect that the first 3 people that you hire are not the right fit. If one of them is, you've won the lottery. But I want your expectations to be there that they might not be the right fit, and that's okay. And move on, learn from that experience, hire the next right person. And then I also told this person, it is going to be difficult during onboarding because you have to now spend your time and energy onboarding them. And this is where I see things often go wrong with lovely people is you don't onboard them the right way. And then they just kind of like lovely around in your business for many, many months or years. And it all goes back to I didn't onboard them the right way. And I wasn't as focused on that new hire as I should have been. Whenever we have a new hire, I know that I'm going to be spending at least 2 weeks of my time onboarding and giving them as much time and attention as I can, because the onboarding phase, I think, is the most critical phase, because it's going to help me make the assessment of everything we talked about here in this episode on firing or letting people go that are lovely people that aren't the right fit. But also it's really important for their success on your team and to figure out how to be a high performing team member and individual. So if you don't put the time and energy into onboarding that you should, I honestly feel like you're doing a disservice to your company and to that team member. And if you already spent a lot of time hiring them slowly, right? Hire slow, like make sure they're the right fit. Don't just hire super fast, because 9 times out of 10, they're not going to be the right fit if you do it that way. But don't discredit then the aftermath of after hiring, the onboarding process. And so back to my story, I was sitting at breakfast with this person and I just said, when you hire someone and you're doing onboarding, you're going to feel like you're taking 5 steps backwards. It's not fun. It's not fun, but you need to know that in order to get 20 steps forward and having assistance and help with all of these tasks that you shouldn't be doing. And I was talking about hiring her first virtual assistant. I just said, you're going to feel that weird pull of like, why am I going backwards? And why am I having to like teach someone how I do all of these things that are just in your head? And maybe you don't have the right systems and workflows in place because that's what you're hiring this virtual assistant to help you do and automate things. Like it is a tough pill to swallow, the onboarding of spending all this time and energy and you're taking so many steps back. But if it is the right fit and they're not just a lovely person and they are a high performing individual and they are going to benefit your company, you are going to get 20, 30, 50 steps forward, I would say in record time. And you're going to see the fruits of your labor and your time and efforts put into that in the future. You just have to know that is going to occur. And I think the people that just think that they can onboard some virtual assistant, they're going to be some like beautiful unicorn that knows everything in their business from the start. That is a fallacy and is not true. Nobody knows how you run your business and nobody can do your business the way that you do it. So you have to teach people how you expect them to run the business or how you do things. And then if they have the right skill sets, they're going to come on board and be like, well, this would be a better way to do it. I understand how you did it, but hey, I know this platform or this automation or this is a system and workflow we can implement that is going to get you from here to there way faster. All righty. That is my lowdown. Why holding on to lovely people can hurt your business. I got a little heated in this episode. I really, really like talking about team building. It is something that I pride myself on. It's something that I work on all the time. I'm constantly listening to podcasts and in masterminds, and becoming a better leader and manager is something I really love to do. And I pride myself in not being the best, but trying to be the best. And the trying and the willingness to always be a better leader and manager is going to show in your company. It's going to show in how you build a team. And it is okay to let go of lovely people who aren't the right fit for your business. I want you to have high standards. That is a good thing. Your business deserves the best. And of course, if you don't already have clear contractor agreements or employment agreements or an employee handbook, please get them in place ASAP. That is critical legally to your success when letting them go, and making sure that those systems and processes are in place every single month or every single pay period, or during performance reviews, or if you have to put them on a PIP. So make sure that you have all of those in place. I will make sure that I link all of those in the show notes for you. Always, 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 if you have additional questions regarding this episode, or questions about, hey, I was thinking about hiring this person, what kind of thing do I need in my contract? Please reach out to us here at the Legal Page. You can DM me on Instagram. If you have specific legal questions that are a little bit more one-on-one, I would suggest that you head over to our Facebook group, tlpfacebook.com. That is where me and my legal team are monitoring those types of questions, and we can give you a more in-depth answer there. And yeah, that's all I have for today. I hope it was a really beneficial episode for you if you are bringing someone on, or maybe if you are sitting in the discomfort of having a lovely person on your team. I really hope that this will help you move forward in a better way. Until next time. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's show. Be sure to visit thelegalpage.com for contract templates, blogs, and additional legal resources. If you found this episode helpful, please share it with a friend or on Instagram with your favorite takeaway, and make sure you tag me at The Legal Page. Sharing is one of the best ways you can support the show. And if you've been tuning in for a while and you are finding value in these episodes, it would mean the world to me if you popped over to Apple Podcasts or Spotify and left a rating and review. Hearing your feedback absolutely inspires me to continue creating podcast content. Lastly, you can join my free Facebook group at tlpfacebook.com, and this is where you'll get access to me, my legal team, and thousands of other entrepreneurs for unlimited business and legal Q&A. Until next time, my friend.